NDTV summit outlined his vision for the India century, driven by aspirational India.
हमारा प्रयास होगा भारत की सेंचुरी सिर्फ भारत की नहीं बल्कि पूरी मानवता की जीत की सेंचुरी बने.
The summit brought together prominent global leaders, highlighting India's pivotal role on the world stage.
Not just Indians trusting India's leadership, but the global South especially trusting India's leadership.
Permanent seat on the UN Security Council is something that should be India's right.
Canada is concerned, I think there are some very specific issues. I think a lot of people know that.
AI is going to be one of the most important, drivers.
It's a very exciting time for India, Indian cinema as well at a global level.
NDTV World Summit was more than just a conversation. It was a confluence of ideas poised to shape our global future.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president.
Donald triumphs. What does Trump's win mean for America, for the world, for the wars, and for India-US relations? Non-stop coverage on NDTV. Top analysts and voices from the ground. Extensive coverage on NDTV.
Stay informed.
Hello and welcome to a very special episode of India Sense. I'm Gauri Trivedi, and the next 30 minutes we'll talk about the biggest story in the world. The next President of the United States, Donald Trump. What will his administration mean for India is our key focus. But let's get you the headlines this Friday evening. Donald Trump becomes the first man in over a century to win back presidency with a gap. He vows that he will truly make the golden age of America come true in his tenure. Prime Minister Modi dials friend Donald Trump after landslide victory. Trump underlines the whole world loves Prime Minister Modi, calls India a magnificent country and Prime Minister Modi a magnificent man. External Affairs Minister Dr. Jaishankar hits out at Trudeau government after anti-India elements perpetrate violence at Brampton's Hindu Sabha Mandir, says political space given to extremist forces. Tensions flare in Israel. Former defense minister hits out at Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, says he axed him because he opposed the draft exemption, supported a hostage deal and called for a state inquiry into the 7th of October attack. He warns that Israel is now abandoning the hostages. USISPF's Mukesh Aghi tells NDTV that India could be a big beneficiary of Trump's economic policies. Aghi says there is convergence in Make in India and Make America Great Again schemes of Prime Minister Modi and President-elect Donald Trump. And over in Western Europe, Germany's governing coalition collapses after Chancellor Olaf Scholz sacks finance minister and paves way for early polls. On to the big story on India Sense this week as Donald Trump gears up for a second term in the White House. New Delhi might find itself navigating both huge opportunities and several obstacles in its relationship with Washington. While his personal relationship and rapport with Prime Minister Modi will ensure that there will be opportunities galore, but challenges pertaining to H-1B visa and trade tariffs could become thorny issues. Negotiations could be easy given that the two leaders share a rapport, but how much could be the challenges in a new and evolved New Delhi-Washington DC relationship? Find out in this report.
Namaste, Trump.
stay.
India-USA friendship.
One of the brightest spots in U.S.-India relations during Trump's first term was the personal chemistry between the president and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Their bromance was a cornerstone of diplomatic efforts. In fact, instead of the usual diplomatic channels, son-in-law Jared Kushner and daughter Ivanka Trump's visit shaped Delhi-Washington relations in Trump's first presidency. The high-profile visits are a testament to the informal relationship the two leaders share. In a second term, this personal connection will continue to play a critical role. Both Washington and New Delhi view Beijing as a common adversary. Defense and security ties are likely to deepen. Under Trump, the U.S. has solid India-advanced military technology, and the two nations have bolstered their cooperation within the Quad. The pivotal strategic grouping with Japan and Australia is aimed at countering China's rising influence in the Indo-Pacific. Expect joint military exercises, arms sale, and continued intelligence sharing as part of the ongoing U.S.-India strategic partnership are on the horizon. A potential flashpoint, however, when it comes to trade, things get trickier. Trump's America First mantra has always meant protectionist policies. His first term saw tariffs on Indian steel and aluminum, as well as on other goods. In 2024, it's highly likely that Trump will continue his aggressive approach to trade imbalances, particularly with emerging markets like India. Expect more trade disputes over tariffs as Trump pushes for India to open its market further or face penalties on exports. Another area of friction will be immigration, specifically Trump's stance on H-1B visas. India's tech industry, which sends thousands of skilled workers to the U.S. under the H-1B program, could be significantly impacted by stricter visa policies. India will need to navigate the trade and visa hurdles that could impede growth. In sum, while Trump's second term will benefit India geopolitically, especially in defense, India will also have to contend with tough economic and immigration policies. It's a delicate balancing act and one that will shape the future of U.S.-India relations for years to come.
Okay, a lot more happening in the world, and the Quick Take segment takes you through some of the key stories that are shaping the world and shaping India. Take a look.
Justin Trudeau seems to be as desperate as a gamble on his last bet. The self-proclaimed champion of free speech has been caught in a web of hypocrisy. This week, his government blocked an entire news outlet, the Australia Today. For what? Well, for airing a press conference by India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar, sparking outrage on both sides of the globe. It is a direct and a brazen attack on media freedom. Canada censored the broadcast, saying the content was inflammatory. The justification is as thin as it is convenient. The ill-conceived move sends a chilling message to journalists everywhere. Question authority and you will be silenced. Bangladesh interim government's chief advisor Moahmmed Yunus finds himself in hot waters yet again. In a dramatic turn of events, all members of the Bangladesh Human Rights Commission have resigned. Why? All 6 members were frustrated over the government's failure to address human rights abuses and the administration's inability to counter the raging mob violence. This resignation highlights growing concerns about the state of democracy and freedom in Bangladesh.
We slip into a very short break. We come back on the other side with a very big interview. USISPF, Mukesh, Aghi, tells NDTV that there are huge opportunities in Trump 2.0 and India needs to grab them. Stay with us.
I don't care for no songs and proses. I don't care for no sweet boys with roses. I'm too busy, baby, making plans on how to get me one of them manly men. All I want is a touch of love.
Hello and welcome to India Sense, where I speak with global opinion makers.
The United States has made a strategic decision over the last 20 years to move closer to India.
So a $7 trillion economy seems a perfectly conceivable number.
If you want to be a national party, it's that you sort of accept the way the world is rather than want to endlessly hark back to how it was.
Modi is promoting the digitization of the economy, which is accelerating growth in the country.
We reached an agreement on petroling. You know, we have gone back to where the situation was in 2020.
Hello and welcome to this very important conversation that I'm having with Dr. Mukesh Aghi, who is the President and CEO of USISPF, to understand the impact of a Trump 2.0 presidency on India, the India-US relationship 2.0, if one may say so, and the extent of the bonhomie that exists between the two leaders. That how will it shape the India-US relationship? Dr. Aghi, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV.
My pleasure.
So how do you see the results that have come? They shocked many, but were you anticipating them?
Well, we did anticipate the win, but this is a shocking victory. It's a landslide for Trump and the Republican Party. We have seen the White House, the Senate gone. I'm waiting for the numbers on the House side, and all indication are it also could go in favor of Republican Party. So it is a landslide for Trump.
So when was the last time there was a president who was so powerful that he had the electoral college vote, of course, which he became a president, but popular vote under his belt, Senate under his belt, Supreme Court under his belt, and possibly the Congress as well?
It is we call the winner of trifecta,
yeah.
All three, but more important is he won the popular vote.
Yeah.
Last time a Republican who won was in 2004. And for last 20 years, nobody has won like Trump has won as a Republican president. So that's a strong mandate he has received from the people of the United States.
And that mandate is for some of the tough measures that he's spoken for, whether it is immigration, whether it is the economy, the cost of living, all of which has a direct bearing on the India-US relationship.
No, absolutely. I think immigration is a big issue, both legal and illegal. Economy is a big issue, especially job creation and the blue-collar environment itself. I mean, look at geopolitically, the world is more in turmoil, the war in Ukraine, the war in Middle East, the stress point with China. So I think all those issues have to be addressed.
Indeed. Specifically, if one were to speak, let's say, about the first issue, which is the illegal immigration point of view, there are tons of statistics that have come in, some even saying that 1 million deportation could cost $88 billion of taxpayer money, completely unacceptable to the people here as well. But it gives an indication of the direction of the policy, doesn't it? Talk to us about your expectation of what this can be, because it also mixes up the issue regarding legal immigration and legal migration. That's also very important for India, isn't it?
Well, you have 16 million illegal folks in the United States. Now, can you deport them all within the next 12 months? The answer is no. It's a complex process, it's a legal process, and it's a costly process. But the message is we got to stop illegal immigration. And you have to understand, the third largest are Indians.
Yes.
And that has an impact on the legal immigration side also. So unless you stop the illegal, how do you fix the legal becomes a challenge.
So do you see or do you anticipate some tough calls on H1B? Do you expect some tough measures that may impact Indian companies, and how do you see some of those responses that will have to come in from the Indian administration as well?
Well, you have to understand, US needs skilled workers. US need highly educated STEM workers also. And it's important that legal immigration continues so you can fulfill the need of American businesses itself.
Yeah.
So I think that we need to but clean up the process itself so people don't take advantage of legal immigration also. So I think you will see a lot of effort from that perspective. Yes, initially there will be turmoil in that area, but it'll settle down and benefit the legal immigrants.
H1B, if you would like to say something on that, because it impacts IT, it impacts Indian IT in a very major way. And any signaling, messaging from the Trump administration, you know, the Indian side will also have to try and find out some way of trying to do you know, expectation management, both for America as well as for India.
Yes, I think H1B impacts because over 70% of the H1B workers come from India. But you have to understand that once you correct the problem, it will help the Indian companies quite a bit. So initially it's going to put a constraint, but as time goes by, it'll get better, and you'll get the right legal immigrants coming to India. So I think the impact will be there initially, but mid to long term, it's going to benefit the Indian companies.
What about the trade relationship? Should we be bracing now for some heavy tariffs, whether it's 20%, whether it's more, some specific sectors likely to be targeted? How do you see the trade relationship now changing under a Trump 2.0?
Well, I think 20% tariff is going to be bumpy, and that's going to impact from the export side. But I think you have to understand 60% of China will drive a lot of manufacturing out of China, and India could be a beneficiary from that perspective.
You see America leading that transition from China to India in terms of manufacturing?
So I think the American companies will have to decide that, because they want to have access to the Chinese market, but at the same time not have manufacturing risks because of the stress point between US and China. So what they may end up doing is have manufacturing in China only for China only, and move for the rest of the world outside China. Some may come back to the US. The challenge we have is we don't have enough skilled workers to basically provide that manufacturing. So we will see that a lot of them moving to India, not just only because of manufacturing, but also access to Indian market itself. When you look at Apple as a company,
yes,
they moved some manufacturing in India, but they also gained a lot of domestic market share.
Right.
Today, Apple revenue in India has crossed $5 billion itself.
Yes.
So I think companies are going to basically recalibrate their de-risking of supply chain and also access to markets also.
So that is Make in India and Make America Great Again coming together quite literally.
Absolutely.
So what about the other key issue in terms of the strategic alignment between India and US? A lot of that has happened in the last decade or so. Under the Trump administration, how do you see that, particularly regard to China and the other factor, Russia, both of which impact India, you know, very, very significantly?
So I think the multiple factors. One is the stress point with China will get deeper and broader. You have to understand, China committed during Trump 1.0 $200 billion of procurement of US goods, and it did not honor that commitment. So Trump has basically strong memories about that. Second factor is...
So you say he's going to come down harsher on China on trade?
Absolutely, because China made a commitment, that commitment was not honored. So there's a trust deficit with China dramatically with Trump himself. Two is when you put 60% tariffs on Chinese goods, yes, you will have US consumer paying, but they will also move their purchase to other sources of procurement itself.
Yes.
But more important is China's ambition to be a dominant power in Asia Pacific, to be a global dominant power, is going to create a much more stress point. And that's where India becomes pivotal, because I think India's relationship with China is not the best itself. China will never accept India as an equal partner. So it serves the interest of India and the United States to come back together. The more important thing is you have to understand The Ukraine war has shown that countries which have a large industrial base can sustain long-term war. And US industrial base has eroded because most of the manufacturing moved back.
Yeah.
And so I think while you try to bring back some manufacturing, India becomes a potential industrial base for US companies and US manufacturing from that perspective. And when you look at the last trip of bilateral between Prime Minister Modi and Biden, a lot of stuff was moved to India from that perspective.
Any back of the envelope calculations that you have, sir, in terms of what is the upside that we are talking for the Indian economy? Any broad calculations that you think can be done in terms of when you're moving this manufacturing from China to India?
It is difficult because the timeline and the planning of the US companies. But all I can say is if you look at just from a services perspective,
yes,
we have now 1,700 global capability centers.
Yeah.
They're doing massive research for US companies. In fact, if you look at Qualcomm as an example, 50% of the IP now is being generated in India. So you look at Samsung, you look at others. Today, every chip design in the world happens in India itself.
Yes.
So from a global capability center, we see a massive momentum.
Yes.
You'll see the same momentum happening on the manufacturing side. We are seeing basically Lockheed, we're seeing Boeing, we're seeing Raytheon doing a lot of their manufacturing now more and more in India itself. So I think that process will continue. It takes time.
Yes.
It takes time. And what we are seeing is it is an incentive factor for US companies to leverage the India skill, to leverage the India market. So I believe the momentum will pick up now.
So does that mean that collaborations with regard to semiconductors, collaboration with regard to defense technology would probably now expedite further to include more realms of collaboration?
No, absolutely. I think we have to find a way out as to how do you not get penalized on 20% tariff coming from India into the US.
Yes.
Because what happens is you want to leverage a global supply chain. And basically, if you want to stay within the global supply chain, the 20% tariff has an impact. And my recommendation...
So what's the way to get around
So I think the best way to get around that is look at the Quad. One of the highlights of Trump administration was make Quad a state leader summit itself. And if you look at the Quad economies, the 4 countries, total economy is, GDP is roughly $35 trillion. And you have US, which has a trade agreement with Japan. US has a trade agreement with Australia. India has a trade agreement with Japan. India has some kind of trade agreement with Australia. So if we can somehow make Quad as an economic platform, it is a defense platform, make it as a technology platform, economic platform, and focus on making a free market within the 4 countries, I think that's the way to go forward.
So you're saying a potential FTA between these 4 countries could be a game changer?
Absolutely, because I think these countries are geopolitically aligned, so from a security perspective they're aligned, and basically India has a surplus skilled resources, a growing market. US need that surplus resources, need that market. So is with Japan itself, so is with Australia. So it is a win-win factor for everybody.
And finally, sir, then a couple of questions I want to ask around Russia and the entire aspect around India's deep economic relationship with Russia, particularly with regard to oil purchases. They came under the scanner during the Biden administration as well. How do you see that under a Trump administration, especially more that, given that Trump as a personality, as a business leader is more oriented towards a transaction give and take kind of an approach, how do you see that impacting India's existing relationship with Russia?
Well, I think you have to understand, one is India's dependence on Russian defense equipment is coming down. You look at last 10 years, it has come down, and procurement from the US is gone up and up. So that's one factor. 2 is the trade between India and the US is almost $200 billion. Whereas with Russia, it's minuscule in single-digit billions of dollars itself. Now, yes, India has been buying Russian energy at a discounted price because it has to serve the interests of its citizens.
Right.
It has an inflationary impact also.
Yes.
But you have to understand also, 50% of that oil, once refined in India, goes to Europe and United States.
Yes.
So both US and Europe are beneficiary from that perspective also.
Yes.
So I think Trump is a businessman. He understands that. I mean, he may make some noise from that perspective, but in the long term, he sees a win-win. So I don't see much of a pressure point coming from that perspective.
And finally, sir, I have to ask you this question around the fact that Prime Minister Modi and President-elect Trump, they have a great rapport that is there. You know, whether it is the Howdy Modi event or several others, sometimes what thorny negotiations are not able to achieve, bonhomie and rapport between leaders is able to achieve. Where do you think this will probably come in handy, given that several negotiations may end up becoming fairly thorny?
Well, I think you have to understand geopolitical alignment is important. And I think India, US are aligned from security to technology to economic to people. And when you have road bumps from that perspective, the personal relationship matters.
Yeah.
And I think Prime Minister Modi was one of the first ones to tweet congratulating President-elect Trump. He was one of the first few leaders to have a conversation with him also. So I think the bonhomie really works much better when you're geopolitically aligned. And I think both countries are aligned from that perspective. So I think you will see a much better relationship in a positive manner between the two countries.
All right, Dr. Aghi, thank you so much for speaking to NDTV, taking out the time and decoding what I think is going to be the next phase of the India-US relationship.
Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.
Okay.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Sense and a wrap of the coverage that NDTV has been bringing to you non-stop of the US elections. Next week, it will be back from our Noida studios. Thank you for watching.
I don't ever know songs and proses. I don't care for no sweet boys with roses. I'm too busy, baby, making plans on how to get me one of them manly men. All I want is a touch of love.
NDTV proudly upholds its legacy of trust and credibility. According to the prestigious Reuters Institute's Digital News Report 2024, NDTV is the top-most news platform in the country. Number one in both online and offline reach in India. Beating all its competition, NDTV stands for trust.
घोषणा आणि जनतेचे पैसे लुटणं.
कट कमिशन आणि करप्शनला आमच्याकडे थारा नाही. त्यांचा परिवारवाद आमचा महाराष्ट्रवाद.
महाराष्ट्रामध्ये 1,75,000 जागा रिक्त आहेत. मग का भरत नाही? राज्याची जनतेच्या घमाच्या पैशाची तिजोरी.
I now request the Honorable Prime Minister to launch NDTV World and address the summit.
It was the grand launch of NDTV World by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. NDTV World, as he laid out his vision for the India century at the NDTV World Summit.
ऐसी सदी जिसमें भारत के प्रयासों से दुनिया में स्थिरता आए.
In the presence of those who are shaping our future.
मेरी तरफ से आपको ढेर सारी शुभकामनाएं हैं.
NDTV World, your new home for global news is here.
आप इन
Online reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital Mumbai.
India's IT capital is always buzz. It's literally a city that never sleeps. And I keep you ahead on all the Bengaluru buzz.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
I want to thank the American people for the extraordinary honor of being elected your 47th president.
Donald triumphs. What does Trump's win mean for America, for the world, for the wars, and for India-US relations? Non-stop coverage on NDTV. Top analysts and voices from the ground. Extensive coverage on NDTV.
Stay informed and entertained with the new and updated NDTV News app. You can watch all our channels live, listen to podcasts, read breaking and exclusive news from around the world and more. Download the NDTV app today and get access to the best
Hello and welcome to the Southern View. I'm Veeraraghav. On the show this evening, the political exchange between the left and the Congress in Kerala intensifies. Why is Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan making the Jamaat allegation against the Congress in Wayanad? Also a special ground report on the high-stakes battle for Channapatna Assembly constituency in Karnataka. But first, the headlines that we're tracking this hour, starting with the big story in Maharashtra. Campaign heat soars in Maharashtra. The Prime Minister accuses the MVA of divisive politics. Rahul Gandhi reiterates caste census pitch. Home Minister Amit Shah asks if Uddhav and Sharad Pawar will support the Waqf bill. Supreme Court overrules its order denying Aligarh Muslim University minority status. A new bench will decide on that minority status for AMU. The AMU lawyers say status quo will remain for now. Chief Justice Chandrachud retires as his two-year term comes to a close, in which the Ayodhya to Article 370 verdicts were delivered. Ladies only, says the UP Women's Commission, moots Uttar Pradesh for a bar on male tailors from taking measurements, no male gyms, and yoga trainers for women to improve women's safety. Well, first up this evening, as Priyanka Gandhi Vadra's campaign for Wayanad comes into focus, Kerala Chief Minister Pinarayi Vijayan, in a Facebook post, has accused the Congress of contesting in Wayanad with the support of the controversial Jamaat-e-Islami. He also accused the BJP of taking the Jamaat support in Jammu and Kashmir. While political influence and support of the Jamaat is a widely known fact in Kerala and the organization is not proscribed, the Chief Minister's direct attack on Priyanka Gandhi gains political significance. In his aggressive post on Facebook, Pinarayi Vijayan claimed, and I quote, that the Wayanad contest exposed the Congress's secular mask and alleged that Priyanka Gandhi is being backed by the Jamaat. He further asks if the Jamaat's ideology aligns with democratic views and asks if the Congress can reject the Jamaat votes. He also accused the BJP of having an understanding with the organization's Jammu and Kashmir unit. The Congress's Deputy Chief Minister in Karnataka, D.K. Shiv Kumar, hit back at Pinarayi Vijayan for his allegations.
You can't comment on such things. She's a national leader. Voters are different. Anyone who want to desire to vote can vote to any individual. Congress party believes in taking every section of the society. But I do not know much about that, whatever the Kerala CM is quoting. Kerala CM is afraid of losing his election in a very big way. That is why he is commenting. The entire state and the Wayanad people are appreciating the stand of Srimati Priyanka Gandhi. That is why they are jealous of her.
Well, so what's the politics behind Pinarayi Vijayan's allegation, and does it reveal the deeper realities and aims at reaching to vote banks in Kerala politics for the left in the run-up to the next assembly elections? Remember, the context is not just in Wayanad. Joining us this evening is K.A. Johnny, senior news editor of Mathrubhumi, who follows Kerala politics very closely, especially in that region that's there. Also with me is NDTV's Uma Sudhir, who's tracking Kerala very closely. We hope to be joined by former CPIM Rajya Sabha MP C.P. Narayanan in a bit from now. But first to you, Johnny, explain to us, given the fact that support of the Jamaat and the influence of the Jamaat is a widely known fact in Kerala, explain to us the context of Pinarayi Vijayan's statement and how it sort of indicates the vote bank requirements of both sides in Kerala.
Yeah, I think the move could be seen as a very well calculated and well organized one on the part of the CM and CPM. Because last Lok Sabha election saw, the victory of BJP in Thrissur Lok Sabha constituency